The NBA right now is in uncharted waters. They are looking for any type of way to figure out how to maneuver in this marketplace right now due to the uncertainty of when the vaccines are going to be handed out. They can't predict revenues. So they're looking at all possibilities on how to minimize their losses and at the same time increase their profits. Now, the league took out a $900 million private loan in which they used the money just to cover a lot of the team's expenses this season because there's not going to be any fan ticket revenue. A lot of these teams, even with fan revenue, barely keep their heads above water. So this is why the league went out and took out this loan to alleviate some of the owners while hoping in the long run that there's going to be a vaccination and fans could eventually return either mid-season or next season. Because there's no guarantee of exactly when they could start making money again, especially with ticket sales, and you combine that with last season, the league losing about $1.5 billion, they're considering all aspects, including expansion. Now, recently, the Utah Jazz has sold for about $1.6 billion. That's on the low end. So more than likely, if the league did expand to about 2 more teams, they could be looking at $4 billion in revenue, which the owners would not have to split with the players. So that money could also alleviate the owners for all the uncertainty going forward. But with the expansion, there are positives and negatives. Of course, for starters, the smaller market teams that especially this season did not want to operate unless they was going to get some sort of revenue would be happy because of course they would collect fees on the expansions and they would have some sort of stability going forward until at least a vaccination comes out. But also at the same time, they would have to split the TV revenue among 32 teams instead of 30. So every team will be collecting less money from the national TV deal. Also, small market owners that already wanted to move their teams into high prize markets, aka like Seattle or Las Vegas, they would probably most likely end up losing out because the league will most likely expand or possibly even expand to those markets. So teams like the Minnesota Timberwolves, I know that ownership been trying to sell the team or relocate the team. Same thing for the Sacramento Kings. There's already a lot of teams in the league where owners are losing money and they want to relocate, so they'll be asked out of that. Another benefit is that the league could strategically relocate teams into a city with a lot of corporate money, since the corporate money is more stable than jersey sales or fan ticket revenue, and that can actually add to the pool of shared revenue so smaller market teams and everyone else who's struggling could benefit. So if you look at a city like Seattle that got Amazon and other tech companies, the league could sure as hell benefit from a team being there because more than likely they'll have ownerships with deep pockets that'll probably go over the luxury tax and it would add to that shared revenue pot. Now, a drawback from the league expanding, especially right now, is due to the fact that potential new ownerships can't even predict how much revenue a team is going to make going forward. So the league might end up getting lowballed because there's no telling how long it's going to take for the vaccinations to be handed out. And at the same time, with this virus mutating, we don't know if another vaccination is going to have to be researched and worked on. And it's not even guaranteed that the vaccination is going to work on everybody. So things right now are very unpredictable. And when things are unpredictable, that means future revenues can't be forecasted. And so the billionaires that are potentially bidding on these teams can't even tell if they're going to get a return on investment or if the team is even worth investing on. And also another drawback is having a diluted product. See, when David Stern in the 90s and 80s started expanding the league, the talent level clearly got less and less. And there were some teams that were completely uncompetitive. You look at the Vancouver Grizzlies, that's one example. You see it throughout the league today, where there's a few teams that their business model is almost to try to compete or just be competitive, but they're never really in the mix. And I remember Paul George, he actually spoke about this. He said that the Indiana Pacers were almost in the business of just being competitive because he actually recruited Anthony Davis to come to the team, but the ownership didn't want to pull the trigger because they told him that they were just a small market team. Just quickly, you guys check out this soundbite.
We had a top 3 player in the league at this time, power forward, that I was trying to get to come to Indy. He wanted to come. I bring it to the front office. They deaded it.
Did you ever say who that was?
It was AD.
Okay.
AD. Me and AD talked. And AD wanted to come to Indy, close to Chicago. He was like, man, it's perfect.
Yeah.
Y'all got something going over there.
Mm-hmm.
So
imagine that.
So, right. So I bring that to the front office. They deaded it. We can't do it. Small market, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, man, all right. So then that night, go back to after we did the baseball, the charity game. That night, they called me up like, we got this player and we looking at that player. And these two players we not winning with these two guys that they named. So I called my agent like, man, what am I doing here? They don't want to win. Like and what I think, honestly, I don't want to bash the organization because it was wonderful people there, but in my opinion, I think it's an organization that just care to be competitive. They don't care to win. They got pressure from the city of Indiana to be competitive, and that's where they hang their hat on. They just want to be a team that can compete, and their chance of winning is they're gonna have to do it in the draft, building the team. That's gonna take forever. So I called my agent like, man, get me out of here. Like, they don't want to win. I'm wasting time here.
See, it starts to raise a lot of red flags with the league trying to dilute the product even more when you have already a number of owners just using their team as a cash flow and selling their fans the idea of winning. And just for you guys to do research in your own time, check out the correlation between the ABA teams and how many of those franchises sort of run in that same manner, where you never see these teams win, where they're always picking in the lottery and they're always in the same place. And you never seem to see these guys go after big name free agents or pay guys out a lot of money to keep guys. All these things definitely have a correlation. It's just some interesting shit to research when you got some spare time. But going back to the fact that the league's product is being diluted, the timing almost couldn't get any worse, because if they dilute the product even more, it's during the height of a TV bubble, with the league negotiating a brand new deal with low ratings on almost every single NBA team. And at the same time, the league is getting younger and younger with very few veteran presence. I don't know if the politics of the veteran minimum payments, if ownership groups don't want to pay out guys those amounts, so they just rather get young guys. But when you combine all these things with dilution of the product on top of it, it doesn't make for a good formula. But one way they could alleviate the style of play from downgrading is making sure that they pour a lot of resources into that G League and make sure that it's developing guys to get to that next level, so the television product remains watchable. That's what makes the NFL so successful, is that the actual product on TV is really good to watch. And the NBA better keep a close eye on that, especially with analytics and everyone playing the same style of basketball and everything pretty much on TV looks very predictable. Especially with James Harden, the NBA better move away from that style of play. That ISO, one-on-one, nonstop, a bunch of dribbling and three-point shooting. It does not make for a good television product. The correlation between the three-point shooting, the analytics, and the ratings dropping is very close. Once the league started trying to copy Golden State, that's when all the ratings started going down for all the teams. They can't blame everything on linear TV because the NFL is growing. So these are the type of things that the league has to look out for, especially if they go the expansion route. It is what it is. Until next time, you guys stay safe. Peace.